Welcome to Truly Scary Ouija Stories. Smash like and subscribe to tread the thin line between reality and the surreal. Let's begin our eerie expedition.
In the heart of the city, tucked between the modern gloss of glass storefronts and the weathered charm of cobblestone streets, there was a hidden gem of a shop that few knew about and even fewer ventured into. Arcane Reads, a quaint bookstore with an air of mystery, was where Mia found herself on a drizzly afternoon that felt more like a scene from one of her novels than real life. The air inside was thick with the scent of old paper and whispered secrets, shelves overflowing with books that spanned the mundane to the esoteric. Mia, an aspiring horror writer with a curiosity that often edged into realms few dared to explore, was drawn to a peculiar ornate box tucked away in the shop's most secluded corner. The shopkeeper, an aged man with eyes that seemed to carry centuries of stories, merely nodded when Mia inquired about the box, as if approving a rite of passage. The box revealed a beautifully crafted Ouija board, its wood polished by time, etched with intricate symbols that felt oddly familiar. Mia's heart raced with the anticipation of story ideas this board could inspire. Little did she know, purchasing it would alter the course of her life in ways no pen could ever write. Action Beat 1, Mia's first encounter. That night, in the quiet solitude of her apartment, surrounded by stacks of research and half-filled cups of cold coffee, Mia prepared to use the Ouija board. With a mix of skepticism and excitement, she placed her fingers lightly on the planchette, half expecting it to remain still. After a moment of silence, the planchette stirred to life, spelling out, "Hello, Mia." The sudden rush of the unknown sent a chill down her spine, her initial disbelief overshadowed by an emerging curiosity. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The planchette moved with purpose, spelling out, "You." Action Beat 2. The warning, confusion, and a hint of fear knotted in Mia's stomach as she pressed on. "What message do you have for me?" she dared to ask. The planchette's movement became erratic, as if struggling against unseen forces, before spelling out a chilling warning. "Danger, trust no one." The room felt colder, the air heavier, as if charged with a foreboding energy. Mia's logical mind fought for rational explanations, but the seed of unease had been planted. She ended the session, unable to shake the feeling that her life was about to intertwine with threads of fate she couldn't comprehend. Action Beat 3. Correlation with reality. The following days were marked by a series of unexplainable events that mirrored the Ouija board's warning. Mia received anonymous, threatening letters, and her best friend Theo narrowly escaped an accident that seemed too calculated to be coincidental. Each incident drove home the reality of the board's message, eroding her skepticism and replacing it with a creeping dread. Mia turned to Theo, sharing the board's warning and the subsequent events. Skeptical but concerned, Theo agreed to help Mia delve into the mystery of the Ouija board, not realizing that their quest would unearth secrets buried deep within Mia's lineage. As the pieces began to align, Mia understood that the board was not merely a conduit for the supernatural, but a key to unraveling her family's dark past. With the realization that the threats were not just to scare her but to warn her, Mia and Theo set out on a path that would lead them through the shadowy realms of history, occult pacts, and a battle for control over their destinies. As Mia and Theo delved deeper into the mystery, their search led them to the local library's restricted section, where ancient manuscripts on the occult were kept under lock and key. With Theo's historical knowledge and Mia's instinctive understanding of the supernatural, they unearthed a journal belonging to Mia's great-grandmother, Sophia. Action Beat 4. The Journal Revelation. Under the dim light of the library, the whispers of the past seemed to leach from the pages of Sophia's journal. It was here that Mia learned of the pact, a desperate agreement struck by Sophia with a powerful spirit to protect her bloodline from a looming threat in her time. In exchange, every future generation was bound to the spirit realm, marked by the ability to connect with the beyond. The revelation was a staggering blend of horror and fascination for Mia, explaining the unspoken shadows in her family's history and her own inexplicable pull towards the Ouija board. Action Beat 5. The Path to Breaking the Pact. The journal contained more than just the history of the pact. It hinted at a possibility of breaking it. According to Sophia, the key lay in conducting a ritual during the lunar eclipse, at a place of powerful spiritual significance to their bloodline. Mia and Theo's resolve hardened, understanding the stakes were no longer just personal safety, but freeing their lineage from an eternity of servitude to the spirit realm. Determined, Mia and Theo set about gathering the artifacts and knowledge required for the ritual. Their efforts were fraught with challenges, both mundane and supernatural. Strange occurrences became more frequent, ranging from unexplained malfunctions of their research equipment to shadowy presences felt watching them from the dark. Despite these intimidations, their bond strengthened, a beacon of human resilience amidst the encroaching darkness. Action Beat 6. Confronting the guardian spirit. Their preparations culminated on the night of the lunar eclipse. Guided by Sophia's journal, they found themselves at an ancient, forgotten grove that resonated with an eerie energy. As they began the ritual, outlined meticulously in the journal's pages, the spectral form of the guardian spirit of the pact materialized, its presence overwhelming, threatening to fracture their resolve. The air thickened with tension as the spirit challenged Mia, its voice a cacophony of whispers that seemed to echo from the very earth beneath them. It tempted, threatened, and tried to deceive her, aiming to dissuade their endeavor. But Mia, fueled by a newfound understanding of her heritage and an unyielding desire for freedom, stood firm. The ritual's completion within the grove, under the shadowed light of the eclipse, was their only chance to break the chains binding her family to the spirit realm. The climax of their confrontation was marked by a surge of energy that radiated through the grove, the spirit's form flickering as it fought to maintain its hold. Mia and Theo, united in purpose, pushed forward, chanting the final words of the ritual as the last sliver of the moon vanished, shrouding the world in darkness before being reborn into light. As the lunar eclipse reached its zenith, Mia and Theo, encircled by the enigmatic forces summoned by the ritual, felt the intensity of the moment bear down upon them. Shadows danced at the edge of the grove, the boundary between the realms thinning, the spirit's form becoming more erratic, its influence waning under the ritual's power. Action Beat 7. The breaking of the pact. In a final, desperate attempt to maintain its grip, the spirit unleashed a maelstrom of ethereal energy, aiming to shatter the resolve of its challengers. However, Mia, with a clarity born of her lineage and her own unyielding will, channeled her focus into the ritual's artifact, a locket passed down through generations. As the locket absorbed the energy, it emitted a brilliant light, casting the grove in a luminance that rivaled the eclipse itself. Their voices, intertwined in the incantation, reached a crescendo. The ground beneath them trembled, the air crackled with power, and then, as if in defiance of the darkness, the eclipse began to wane, revealing the moon's light once more. The spirit, its form disintegrating under the ritual's onslaught, emitted a final otherworldly scream before dissipating into the ether. The pact it had guarded for centuries, broken at last. Action Beat 8. The aftermath. The grove fell silent, the tumultuous energies dissipating as quickly as they had risen. Mia and Theo, exhausted but elated, faced each other in the aftermath, the weight of their actions settling in. The locket that had been central to the ritual's success lay open in Mia's hand, its light dimmed, now a simple piece of metal and stone, a relic of their ordeal. In the quiet that followed, the reality of their success dawned upon them. They had not only confronted, but overthrown the chains of a supernatural legacy that had bound Mia's family for generations. Yet, in their victory, there was an understanding of the sacrifices made by those before them, of the strength required to face such unearthly threats. Action Beat 9. A new dawn. As dawn broke, painting the sky in hues of gold and pink, Mia and Theo left the grove, the ritual artifacts and Sophia's journal in hand. Their departure was not just from a place of power, but from an old chapter of Mia's family legacy, now concluded. They returned to their world, carrying with them the knowledge of the unseen and the understanding that some mysteries were best left unexplored. The Ouija board, the catalyst for their journey, had vanished without a trace, its purpose served and its role in their lives concluded. Ending. In the weeks that followed, Life returned to a semblance of normality, but the shadow of their experience lingered. Mia turned to her writing, the events they had lived through bleeding onto the pages, transforming her horror novel into something far more personal and profound. Theo remained by her side, a steadfast presence, their bond deepened by the trials they had endured. Together they faced the future, a future unshackled from the past, their spirits no longer tethered to the whims of another realm. Yet, as Mia penned the final words of her novel, a soft whisper seemed to echo through the room, a reminder of the thin veil between worlds. The Ouija board was gone, but the mystery of the beyond and the respect it demanded remained. They had won their freedom, but at the heart of their victory was the knowledge that some doors, once opened, could never be fully closed.
The narrow streets of the town whispered with secrets, especially as dusk painted shadows across the cobblestones, ancient as the mysteries they concealed. Among these enigmas nestled a house, peculiar in its antiquity, standing as a silent guardian of stories untold. This house, with its ivy-clad walls and time-worn facade, was now home to Alex, Jamie, and Ryan, who, in their youthful audacity, sought an adventure in their final year of college, unknowing of the true adventure that awaited them. Alex, with their piercing green eyes, always felt drawn to the hidden corners of the world, where the veil between the ordinary and the extraordinary seemed most thin. Moving into this house was their idea, a notion driven more by an inexplicable pull than the need for affordable rent. Jamie, ever the optimist, was intrigued by the adventure of living somewhere that seemed to echo with the whispers of the past. Ryan, though more rooted in the tangible realms of logic and technology, was swayed by his friend's enthusiasm and the promise of high-speed internet. The discovery happened on a lazy Sunday, the kind that encouraged exploration. Led by an inexplicable compulsion, Alex suggested they investigate the basement, a decision that would change the very fabric of their reality. The basement, dimly lit by scant rays of sunlight struggling through small windows, was cluttered with remnants of bygone eras. It was here, amidst dust that danced in the beams of light, they found it. An ancient Ouija board hidden beneath a draped cloth, its wood darkened by age, yet the letters and numbers etched upon it seemed to beckon. "I've never seen one like this before," Jamie whispered, her hand hovering above the board, a mix of reverence and curiosity in her bright blue eyes. Ryan pushed his glasses up his nose, peering down. "It looks really old. Are we sure we want to mess with this?" But Alex felt a connection, a thrumming in their veins that seemed to synchronize with the silent call of the board. "We have to," they said, their voice tinged with an unknown certainty. That night, under the flickering light of candles, as if to pay homage to the age of the board, they sat in a circle around it. The planchette, ornate and seemingly eager, rested under their combined fingers. As they asked their first question, the air thickened, a charged silence enveloping them. And then it moved. Guided by a force beyond their understanding, the planchette slid across the board, spelling out greetings from the other side. Unease prickled at Alex, a feeling that this was more than a mere game, underscored by a whisper of something familiar, something ancient. In the days that followed, strange occurrences began to unfold around them. A chill in rooms that should have been warm, objects misplaced, and then the first undeniable sign, a series of peculiar symbols that appeared on Alex's wrist overnight, perfectly mirroring the small tattoo they had always possessed. It was as if the mark had awakened in response to the seance, a beacon of an unknown legacy calling out to them. This can't just be a coincidence," Jamie remarked, eyes wide as she examined Alex's wrist, the symbols a mirror image of those found on the board. Her voice was a mix of fear and fascination, a reflection of the tumultuous emotions swirling within Alex. Ryan, ever the skeptic, frowned. "It has to be some kind of trick, right, Alex?" But Alex knew better. The undeniable sense of connection, the surge of energy when they touched the board, and now the symbols. It was as if the very fibers of their being recognized what their conscious mind could not. They were part of a story much larger than themselves, a narrative interwoven with the occult mystery embedded within the Ouija board. What began as an innocent exploration had now twisted into a journey toward unveiling the hidden depths of their own ancestry and the supernatural threads that bound their destiny. The adventure they sought was not in the living amongst the remnants of history, but in the uncovering of their place within it. Alex, along with their friends, stood on the precipice of an unknown realm, beckoned by the whispers of the past, as the true nature of their connection to the ancient occultist began to unravel. As the days passed, a heavy shroud of uncertainty began to envelop the trio. The house, with its creaking floorboards and whispering walls, seemed to watch them with unseen eyes, its history intermingling with the present. Fueled by a mixture of dread and determination, Alex delved into the town's archives, seeking answers that seemed to elude logic. The local library, a bastion of knowledge with its towering shelves of books worn by time, became their sanctuary. Here, amid the musty scent of paper, Alex uncovered tales of an ancient occultist, a figure both revered and feared, who had been banished centuries ago for dabbling in forbidden knowledge. The more they read, the more the pieces began to fit together, revealing a mosaic of a cursed lineage and unspeakable power. With each page turned, the undeniable connection between Alex and the occultist solidified, their shared bloodline emerging as the thread that wove their destinies together. Jamie and Ryan, ever supportive, pored over old manuscripts and faded letters alongside Alex. Their skepticism waned with each discovery, replaced by a sense of shared purpose. They found themselves enmeshed in Alex's quest, their friendship bolstered by the shared journey into the unknown. One evening, as they assembled once more in the dimly lit basement, the Ouija board between them seemed to thrum with energy, a silent witness to the revelations uncovered. The air crackled with anticipation as they initiated another session, seeking guidance from the spirits they had once naively beckoned. It was then, in the midst of whispered requests for insight, that the board revealed its true nature, not as a mere tool for communication, but as a key. The planchette moved with purpose, spelling out a message that resonated within Alex's very soul. Unlock the past, embrace your truth. In that moment, a flood of visions assaulted Alex, glimpses of ancient rituals, and a lineage wrought with power and sacrifice. The Ouija board was more than it seemed. It was a portal to the hidden memories and abilities dormant within Alex, waiting to be awakened. The revelation hit Alex like a physical force, leaving them reeling with the implications. Their body bore the marks of their heritage, a lineage that connected them to the occultist in ways they couldn't have imagined. The symbols on their wrist, a mirror to those on the board, served as a key, a bridge between Alex and their ancestor. With newfound resolve, Alex shared their revelations with Jamie and Ryan, who listened with a mix of awe and apprehension. The depth of their involvement had transcended their initial curiosity, now bound by a shared destiny. The trio understood that the strange occurrences around them were not merely manifestations of a disturbed spirit, but signs of a deeper, ancestral calling. As the realization settled, the weight of their discovery became apparent. Alex, the direct descendant of the banished occultist, was the linchpin in an age-old curse that loomed over the town. The Ouija board had chosen them, not by chance but by design, to complete a ritual left unfinished by their ancestor. A ritual that held the power to either break the curse afflicting the town or to perpetuate it for generations to come. In the shadowed basement, surrounded by the echoes of a past intertwined with their own, Alex, Jamie, and Ryan faced an uncertain future. The journey ahead was fraught with dangers, both known and unknown, but they were determined to confront their destiny together. With the Ouija board as their guide, they prepared to delve deeper into the occult mysteries that bound them, the weight of their choices hanging heavy in the air. As twilight bled into night, casting long shadows across the ancient floors of the basement, Alex, Jamie, and Ryan gathered for what they knew would be their final séance. The air hummed with a palpable energy, as if the house itself anticipated the impending ritual. Around them, candles flickered, casting eerie shadows that danced like specters on the walls. With solemn determination, Alex took their place at the head of the circle, the Ouija board before them. Each friend placed a hand on the planchette, their bond a tangible force in the charged atmosphere. Alex's heart raced, not with fear, but with the resolve of one who has accepted their destiny. Drawing on the revelations of their lineage and the ancestral power coursing through their veins, Alex initiated the seance. The planchette stirred under their collective touch, moving with a deliberate force. It spelled out a message, a guide for the ritual. Blood of the lineage, unify past and present. Understanding dawned on Alex. The ritual required not just the knowledge of their ancestor, but a part of Alex themselves, their will, their essence. It was a gamble, a dance on the knife edge between salvation and doom. The room's temperature plummeted as they began, words of ancient incantations falling from Alex's lips. The shadows grew thicker, coalescing into forms that were both familiar and alien. Voices whispered on the edge of hearing, echoes of the past converging with the present. Jamie and Ryan, although unable to see the spectral assembly, felt the gravity of the moment. Their unwavering support for Alex, a beacon of strength in the encroaching darkness. As the ritual reached its zenith, Alex made their choice. Instead of drawing the curse closer, weaving it into the fabric of their being as their ancestor had intended, they sought to alter the course laid out for them. With a final decisive incantation, Alex channeled the power, not for self-aggrandizement or control, but for liberation. For themselves, the town, and the spirits bound by the ancient curse. The reaction was instantaneous. A surge of energy exploded outward from the Ouija board, washing over them in waves of heat and light. The spectral figures wailed, their forms dissolving under the onslaught of purified power. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, replaced by a sense of peace that permeated the very foundations of the house. As the last whispers of light faded, leaving the basement in serene darkness, the friends collapsed into each other, exhausted but victorious. The dawn that greeted them was unlike any other, suffused with a softness that spoke of endings and new beginnings. The curse was broken, the souls tormented by centuries of bondage finally released. Alex, through their courage and desire to forge a different path, had altered the legacy of their ancestor, setting themselves and the town free from the shadows of the past. In the days that followed, the house, once a nexus of unseen forces, became merely a house again, old and creaky, but no longer whispered about in fearful tones. Alex, Jamie, and Ryan emerged from their ordeal changed, bound by an experience that transcended the ordinary. Their friendship, strengthened by the trials they faced, was a testament to the power of unity in the face of darkness. Alex, once unsure of their place in the world, had found it not through the supernatural destiny prescribed by their lineage, but through their own choices and the unbreakable bonds of friendship. The ancient Ouija board, now silent, remained in the basement, a relic of a past confronted and overcome. In the quiet aftermath, the trio knew that their lives would never be the same. But they faced the future with heads held high, hearts light, and spirits unburdened. For in breaking the cycle of the past, they had not only saved themselves, but had also forged a new path, illuminated by hope and the unyielding strength of the human spirit.
The manor stood, stoic and singular, at the end of a winding gravel pathway that carved through an overgrowth of wild flora. Its towering silhouette, softened by the creeping twilight, seemed almost welcoming. Or perhaps it was the weariness clouding Norah's judgment after the long drive. She stepped out of her car, the gravel crunching under her boots, a sound oddly comforting in the expansive silence that enveloped the property. This was to be her refuge, her sanctuary from a world that had become too loud, too suffused with memories that clung like persistent shadows. The loss of her sister had carved out a chasm in Norah's life, one that echoed with a grief too profound to navigate. In seeking isolation, Norah hoped to find solace, perhaps even herself, within the manor's age-old walls. The interior of the manor felt like stepping into a different era, where time meandered at its own pace, unhurried by the demands of the modern world. It was in the library, however, that Norah felt the first real tug of curiosity, a whisper from the past that beckoned. The room was lined with shelves groaning under the weight of books whose leather spines spoke of centuries past. It was here, in the dimming light filtered through stained glass windows, that Norah's gaze fell upon a peculiar set of items on a heavy mahogany desk. A dusty Ouija board and an aged diary, bound in faded leather. Intrigue overcame her initial hesitation. The Ouija board, its surface etched with letters and numbers, seemed innocuous enough, a relic of a bygone era's fascination with the occult. But it was the diary, its pages yellowed with time, that drew her in with an almost magnetic pull. Norah couldn't resist. She sat at the desk, the ancient chair creaking under her weight, and tentatively opened the diary. The writing within was elegant, looping across the pages in ink that had faded to a soft sepia tone. The diary belonged to Elizabeth, a young woman who had resided in the manor in the 1920s. What started as idle curiosity quickly deepened as Norah delved into Elizabeth's life, a life marked by joy, sorrow, and a mysterious undertone that hinted at secrets hidden within these walls. Compelled by a force she couldn't articulate, Norah decided to bridge the gap between past and present. She set the diary aside and positioned her fingers lightly on the planchette of the Ouija board. A part of her scoffed at the action, a journalist's skepticism mocking the idea of communing with the dead. Yet, as the twilight deepened into night, enveloping the library in shadows, there was a part of her, perhaps the part still raw with loss, that hoped for a connection, a sign that there was something beyond the tangible. "Is there anyone here with me?" she whispered, half expecting the silence that followed. But then the planchette stirred, a slow, deliberate movement that seemed to drain the warmth from the room. Breath held, heart suddenly pounding with a mix of fear and fascination, Norah watched as it glided across the board, spelling out a welcome that was both impossible and undeniable. "Hello, Norah." The air around her seemed to thrum with an energy that was both foreign and familiar, the sensation leaving her skin tingling. Questions tumbled through her mind, skepticism warring with the burgeoning realization that she was not alone in her search for solace. The past was reaching out, eager to share its secrets, to unravel the mystery that was Elizabeth and the manor. It was in this moment, surrounded by whispers of history and the palpable presence of something beyond, that Norah felt the first real stirrings of hope. Perhaps in seeking to uncover Elizabeth's story, she might find a path through her own grief. With renewed purpose, Norah turned her attention back to the board, the diary, and the invisible thread that seemed to connect them, ready to pull at the seams of reality and uncover the truths hidden within the silence of the manor. The nights that followed were a journey into the unseen, each session with the Ouija board peeling back layers of the manor's history and Elizabeth's life. Norah found herself caught in the ebb and flow of past and present, the diary serving as a bridge between the two. Yet it was during one particular session, as a storm raged outside, that the atmosphere within the library shifted, coiling with a tension that felt charged, anticipatory. Norah's fingertips had barely grazed the planchette when it jolted to life, moving with an urgency she hadn't experienced before. The storm's cacophony seemed to mirror the tumult within her, as the planchette spelled out a stark warning: "He watches." The room, already dimly lit by flickering candles, seemed to darken further, the shadows lengthening into shapes that danced just beyond the edge of vision. It was as though the storm outside had found a counterpart within, a tempest of spiritual energy that washed over Norah with a cold dread. The temperature plummeted, breath clouding in the air, and the candles flickered violently, as if struggling against an unseen gale. For the first time since she'd begun this venture into the unknown, fear took root in Norah's heart. Not the fear of the dark or of being alone, but a deep, visceral fear of something ancient and malevolent turning its gaze upon her. The diary, once a source of comfort and curiosity, lay open beside her, its pages fluttering as though caught in a breeze. It was then that the words, scrawled in Elizabeth's elegant hand, took on a new significance, hinting at a darkness that had once stalked the corridors of the manor, a presence whose interest had been rekindled. Shaken, Norah retreated from the library that night, but the sensation of being watched did not abate with distance from the Ouija board or the diary. Sleep became elusive, each creak of the old manor's bones sounding like stealthy footsteps, each whisper of wind a murmur of intent. The boundary between her waking hours and nightmares began to blur, images of shadowed figures and whispered threats bleeding into the daylight. It was amidst this turmoil that Norah found clarity, a realization that the growing sense of dread was not merely her imagination running wild, but a tangible presence making its intentions known. Whatever had been observing her, waiting in the penumbra of her activities, was now closing in, drawn by her interactions with Elizabeth through the Ouija board. Determined not to succumb to fear, Norah took action. She began to delve into the manor's history, seeking out local archives and records that might shed light on the identity of the ominous presence. Simultaneously, she revisited Elizabeth's diary with a critical eye, searching for any mention of the spirit that now seemed intent on merging its story with hers. What she uncovered in those pages was a narrative tinged with despair, a chronicle of Elizabeth's encounters with a figure she referred to only as the Shadowed One. Descriptions of cold gusts, unexplained malaise, and the sensation of being watched mirrored Norah's experiences, weaving a tapestry of fear that spanned decades. Elizabeth's entries became increasingly fraught as the presence grew bolder, culminating in a desperate plan to confront the spirit, cut tragically short by her untimely death. Armed with this knowledge, Norah realized the gravity of what she faced. Somehow, her attempts to connect with Elizabeth had awoken something that had lain dormant, a darkness that had claimed Elizabeth and now sought Norah. Yet within the diary's accounts, between lines of fear and strategies of evasion, lay a thread of hope, a series of rituals and ancient practices Elizabeth believed could protect her, a legacy of knowledge that Norah now inherited. As the storm outside the manor abated, revealing a sky washed clean of its earlier fury, a sense of resolve settled over Norah. The path before her was fraught, lined with the echoes of Elizabeth's terror and the looming threat of the Shadowed One. But it was a path she knew she must walk. For in seeking to uncover the past, Norah had unearthed a fight that was now hers to finish. A battle not just for her peace, but for Elizabeth's too. With determination steeling her resolve, Norah prepared to face the darkness, armed with ancient wisdom and the unbreakable bond forged across time with Elizabeth. The manor, once a sanctuary from her grief, had become the battleground for a deeper, more primal conflict, one that Norah was determined to win. Norah stood in the oldest part of the manor, her resolve a tangible force against the encroaching darkness. The room, once used for clandestine gatherings of those who dabbled in the esoteric, now held the key to confronting the entity that stalked the shadows of her new home. Armed with Elizabeth's diary, the ancient rituals inscribed within its pages, and an unwavering will to end the nightmare, Norah began her preparation. The storm had cleared, leaving an ominous quiet that enveloped the manor. Candlelight flickered across ancient symbols Norah had painstakingly recreated on the floor, their meanings imparted through Elizabeth's recorded experiences. Each candle, each sigil, each whispered incantation served as a beacon, calling the Shadowed One into the open. As the ritual reached its crescendo, the temperature plummeted, breath visible in the charged air. The shadows twisted, coalescing into a form both nebulous and terrifyingly distinct. The presence she had felt since her arrival now stood before her, a darkness that hungered, that desired dominion over life and death. The Shadowed One, Norah breathed, her voice steady despite the fear that clawed at her heart. This was the entity that had claimed Elizabeth, that now sought to claim her. But Norah was not Elizabeth. She was armed not just with knowledge, but with a determination born of loss and a fierce desire to protect what she had come to see as her own. The entity moved, a ripple in the dark, its intent clear as the air grew thick with malice. Words from the diary echoed in Norah's mind, guiding her hand as she reached for the talisman she had fashioned, a physical manifestation of her bond with Elizabeth. As she held it aloft, a light burst forth, piercing the darkness with a purity that seemed to halt the entity in its tracks. Norah's voice rang out, clear and commanding, reciting the final incantation. The room trembled, the air vibrating with the power of her words, of the ritual that reached back through the ages to draw upon a strength that eclipsed the darkness before her. A scream, not of this world, filled the space, the entity writhing as the light from the talisman became a blade, severing its tether to the manor, to the mortal plane. And then, as suddenly as it had all begun, it was over. Silence, deep and profound, fell upon the room. The candles flickered once more, the shadows retreating to their natural place, their threat extinguished. Norah stood, breathless, the weight of the talisman in her hand a reminder of the battle fought and won. In the days that followed, the manor seemed to breathe a sigh of relief, its halls brighter, the oppressive atmosphere that had once permeated its walls lifted. Norah could feel the change, a peace that mirrored her own heart's slow mending. Elizabeth's diary, once a source of fear and uncertainty, now lay open on the desk in the library, a testament to the journey undertaken, to the darkness faced and defeated. Norah had come to the manor seeking solace, a respite from a world that had become too painful to bear. In its walls, she had found not just a home, but a purpose, a connection to something greater than herself. She had confronted her grief, her fears, and in doing so, had found a strength she hadn't known she possessed. As she looked out over the grounds of the manor, the sunlight dappling the earth with warmth, Norah understood that the battle fought was not just for her own soul, but for Elizabeth's as well. In banishing the Shadowed One, she had not only reclaimed her sanctuary, but had honored the bond that linked her across time to Elizabeth. The manor, once a place of sorrow and darkness, now stood as a beacon of hope, a testament to the enduring power of the spirit and the unbreakable bonds of love. The end of her ordeal marked not an ending, but a beginning, a new chapter in a story that she now knew was interwoven with threads of the past, rich with the promise of tomorrow. Norah, with a heart now open to the mysteries of life and the assurance that even in our darkest moments, we are never truly alone, stepped forward into the light of her new day.
The town of Willow Creek, nestled amidst a sea of mist and forest, was a place of unwritten stories and whispered legends. At its heart stood the enigmatic Mansfield mansion, a decrepit testament to an era long past, its history shrouded in mystery and tales of the supernatural. It was here, under the cloak of twilight, that Alex, alongside their friends Jamie and Sam, found themselves poised at the edge of an adventure that promised to bridge the gap between curiosity and fear. Alex, with an infectious enthusiasm born of a deep, unresolved fascination with the occult, had convinced Jamie and Sam to explore the mansion. The allure wasn't just the thrill of discovery, but the unspoken promise of peeling back the layers of the unknown. The mansion, with its silhouette cutting through the fog, stood as a silent challenge, its secrets locked behind walls whispered to be thin veils separating the living from the realms beyond. As they stepped through the creaking doors, the weight of the air shifted, dense with the echo of untold stories. They set up their makeshift Ouija board in the parlor, a room where the passage of time was marked by layers of dust and decay, yet holding an inexplicable warmth as if welcoming them into its fold. The flickering candlelight cast shadows that danced to an unseen melody, creating an ephemeral connection between their world and what lay beyond. It was Alex who initiated the contact, their voice a mix of excitement and trepidation. "If there are any spirits willing to communicate with us, please show yourselves," they called into the dark, their words hanging in the air like a fragile bridge to the unseen. The planchette stirred, hesitantly at first, as if awakening from a deep slumber. Then, with a newfound purpose, it glided across the board under their collective touch, spelling out echo. The name, a mere whisper in the vast lexicon of the supernatural, sent a chill down their spines. Jamie, her intuition like a sixth sense, felt a benign presence, a curiosity mirroring their own. Sam, ever the skeptic, offered a laugh that broke the tension, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of doubt. As the session progressed, Echo began to weave a tale not through grand narratives, but through whispered secrets, secrets that only friends so closely knit could know. Sam's laughter grew scarce as a personal secret, long buried, was laid bare by the entity. Jamie's warmth turned to cold apprehension as details of her family history, known only to her, were revealed. Alex, feeling a growing rift between belief and skepticism, found their own questions about a missing ancestor answered in unsettling detail. The night wore on, the air thick with the tension of revelations, and the chilling realization that they had not merely awakened the curiosity of the mansion's past, but had opened a door to something far more profound and potentially malevolent. Echo, with each secret divulged, seemed to draw closer, knitting itself into the fabric of their reality. its presence becoming as tangible as the flickering candlelight that bound them to this unearthly communion. What began as a quest for answers had morphed into an unspoken understanding that they had traversed beyond the realm of harmless intrigue. The once welcoming room now felt constrictive, as if the mansion itself was slowly drawing a veil around them, sequestering them from the world they knew into one where the boundaries between the past and the present, the living and the dead, were irrevocably blurred. In the restless quiet that followed their unsettling Ouija session, the trio discovered an old, dust-covered leather tome hidden beneath a floorboard in the mansion's parlor. The book, its pages yellowed with age, chronicled the dark history of the Mansfield mansion, tales of seances gone awry, of spirits summoned and never fully banished. As they pored over the ancient text, a horrifying realization dawned upon them. Echo was not a benign presence. The spirit they had contacted was a malevolent entity, bound to the mansion by a curse set forth by its original occupants, who dabbled far too deeply into the occult. Sam, the skepticism that had once colored his perspective now replaced with a sobering fear, suggested they end their expedition and leave the mansion immediately. Jamie, her blue eyes wide with fright yet burning with a determination born of their dire situation, insisted they find a way to rectify their mistake. It was Alex, their resolve hardened by the revelation, who decided they would confront Echo, head-on, armed with the knowledge and rituals contained within the ancient tome. The ensuing hours blurred into a frenzied study session, with Alex leading the charge. They dissected complex rituals and ancient symbols, the mansion's library turning from a place of intrigue to a makeshift command center for their desperate plan. The weight of responsibility bore down on Alex, their eyes scanning page after page, seeking a solution to bind Echo back to its confinement. Jamie, ever supportive, worked alongside Alex, her intuition guiding her to passages and rituals that felt significant. Sam, though shaken, lent his pragmatic hands to the preparation of the necessary materials for the ritual: a circle of salt, candles positioned at cardinal points, and incantations written in a hurried yet careful script. As night deepened, casting long shadows across the mansion's many halls, the trio made their way back to the parlor. The plan was straightforward: reopen communication with Echo, trick it into revealing the extent of its imprisonment, and perform the binding ritual to seal it away once more. The air thrummed with tension, charged with the anticipation of the impending confrontation. Jamie whispered words of encouragement, trying to fortify their resolve, while Sam's hands trembled, not from the cold, but from the fear of the unknown they were about to face. Positioned in the center of their carefully prepared circle, the Ouija board before them once again, they called out to Echo. The planchette stirred to life with an eagerness that chilled them to the bone. Alex took the lead, their voice steady despite the pounding of their heart, engaging Echo in a deceptive dance of words, baiting the entity to reveal its limitations. Each moment stretched into eternity as they weaved through the ritual, Echo, its responses growing more erratic, its presence looming over them like a dark cloud. The air crackled with energy, the candles flickering violently as if protesting the disturbance. Alex, their focus unwavering, recited the binding incantation, their voice rising above the chaos, imbued with the power of belief and the desperate hope of salvation. The climax of their efforts was marked by a sudden, deafening silence, broken only by their ragged breaths. The candles extinguished themselves, casting the room into darkness, a tangible veil of peace descending over the mansion. As their eyes adjusted, the planchette lay still, an unspoken testament to their victory or a momentary reprieve from their unseen adversary. The darkness enveloped the parlor with an oppressive weight, a stark contrast to the frenetic energy that had moments before charged the air. In the uneasy silence, Alex, Jamie, and Sam shared a look that spoke volumes, a mix of relief, fear, and the dawning realization of the cost of their victory. The entity they had known as Echo had receded, but not without leaving a mark upon their souls, a reminder of the night's harrowing events. As they made to leave, however, it became painfully clear that their battle was not yet won. Sam, the ever-sturdy presence among them, staggered, his movements uncharacteristically erratic. His eyes, when they met Alex's, held a depth of malaise, a hint of otherworldly possession that sent a shiver down Alex's spine. Echo had not been banished, it had found a new vessel. The confrontation that unfolded was as much a battle of wits and wills as it was a testament to the deep bonds of friendship that united the trio. Alex and Jamie, driven by desperation and the unyielding desire to save their friend, faced off against the entity now wielding Sam's body like a marionette. Words became weapons, incantations a shield, as they navigated the intricate dance of liberation, their voices echoing through the mansion's halls, blending with the whispers of 1,000 forgotten spirits. The climax of their struggle came with a revelation, a hidden fragment within the ancient text that spoke of sacrifice and redemption. Armed with this knowledge, Alex made a choice that would forever alter the course of their lives. With a declaration of intent, they offered a part of their own spirit in exchange for Sam's freedom, a bargain that Echo could not resist. The air shimmered with a surge of ethereal energy as the transaction was sealed, a piece of Alex's essence intertwining with the mansion's haunted legacy. In the aftermath, as dawn's first light crept through the broken windows, casting a soft glow upon the weary group, the mansion seemed to sigh, a sound of resignation and release. Echo, bound once again, receded into the shadows of the mansion, its presence diminished but ever lurking. Sam, freed from the entity's grasp, collapsed into Jamie's arms, his memory of the ordeal fragmented, a mercy perhaps in the face of such terror. The trio, once bound by curiosity, now found themselves united by a shared ordeal, the weight of their experience a silent bond that would never be broken. As they exited the mansion, stepping out into the light of a new day, the world seemed unchanged, and yet, for them, everything was different. They had stared into the abyss, challenged the unseen, and emerged victorious, though not unscathed. The echo of their ordeal would resonate within them, a reminder of the night they danced with shadows and emerged into the light. The Mansfield mansion, with its secrets and specters, remained a silent sentinel in Willow Creek, a monument to the unseen forces that dwell just beyond the veil of our understanding. Alex, Jamie, and Sam, their lives forever altered, moved forward, carrying the weight of their encounter as a reminder of the thin line between curiosity and recklessness, between this world and the next.